Hey guys, Matt Langford here. Today I'm going to show you the second knot in the series of knots that I'm showing you on YouTube at the moment. This one here I get asked about all the time, and a lot of people do ask me questions about how do I tie the loop knot. Okay, so the loop knot is vastly different to the blood knot. The blood knot I always use on lures that have a pivot or a swivel or a snap or something like that, and I tie directly to. Now with the loop knot, what it actually does is it creates its own pivot or its own swivel. So I always tie it on jig heads, particularly ones that don't have a pivot. They have a little toe point at the top or at the front, but this knot here is the best one for creating a little pivot point. Now in this scenario, guys, I'm going to be using really heavy leader just so you can see, but generally when I'm fishing for bass I use between 6 pound, probably at the minimum, to up to 20 pounds sometimes. But this knot is a really good one for creating lots of movement, lots of pivot, and basically acts like a swivel. So to start off our loop knot, basically I've got my line, and I'm going to do the beginnings of a granny knot. Okay, so I grab my tag end and I'm going to do the beginnings of a granny knot, okay, and I'm just leaving a small loop, just like that, about an inch or so from the top of the tag, and that's our loop, okay. Now from here, I'm going to grab the tag end and I'm going to put it through the eyelet. Now it's a bit bigger than I'd usually use, but you'll get the concept. That goes through the eyelet. Now my tag, I'm going to run through my loop, okay. Now once it's through the loop, I've got my tag end through the loop, I've got my main line. That tag end is then going to travel around my main line. I'll just pull that up a little bit. It travels around my main line once, and then you'll see inside my loop here I actually end up with two loops. So that tag end there now is going to go through both. Okay, I'm going to grab that tag end and I grab my main line and I start to pull the two together. Okay, now what happens here is I can start to adjust how big I want my loop to be on my loop knot. Now I want to have it about that big, okay, purely for demonstration purposes because I'm using such thick line. Usually I'd have a loop of about 3 or 4 millimeters. Doesn't have to be too large. But what I'm going to do now, guys, just so you can see, is I'm going to tighten it right up. So I can do that up really tight, and what I'm left with is I'm left with a nice little loop and a knot above the loop. Okay, of course with my tag, I'm going to snip my tag, snip it reasonably close to the line. Those scissors aren't that great. But what you'll see now is you'll see we've got our loop knot, and it allows my jig head to be able to move around freely and not be restricted or choked by a blood knot. Okay, that is its own little swivel area there. Okay, you can see there's plenty of movement. So when I'm throwing my lures and I'm twitching or I'm imparting action onto the lure, that transfers incredibly into how the lure reacts and how it swims, and it's not so restricted by a tight blood knot. So there you go, there's our loop knot. Okay, I had to use thicker line so you could see what to do, but have a practice with say 6 pound or 12 pound and see how you go with the blood knot. But that's a great little knot for using on soft plastics and that sort of thing.